welcome to another Sustainable Sundays.
Welcome, welcome.
Yes.
So, as you can see from the very cover, today we have another super special guest. The Sustainable Sundays are becoming very, very crowded of special people.
Great.
And yes, we have with us Francesco Postiglione. You know,
Hello,
Moran?
hello to everyone.
Hey,
Thank you, Domenico, to call me special. I don't think I'm special.
You
Thank you
are,
very
you
much.
are.
Thank you
Hey,
very much.
we all are. Everyone is special.
Right. This
At
is
least.
right. In that sense, I'm special too. Okay.
Yes, you
great,
are.
great. So let's start. Let's start. Yes, Moran, would you want to say something about the topic? Few words, then I also introduce Francesco.
Oh, yes, I would love to. It's also an honor, Francesco, really, because the focus that you've done on, well, human rights in this case of today, what we're going to talk about, is so relevant in today's world, more than even a year ago, I would say. It's so relevant to think what are the next steps that we need to do, considering the circumstances that we are in, taking into account the circumstances we were in even before the pandemic, and where are we headed to from now. And I think, having heard you speak before in other places and read some of your research and your work, I'm very excited to share this information with our viewers and those who will view it even after today's broadcast, because I think there are not many people who specify in what you've specified in. And so I'm super grateful for the time you've put into it and really excited for the information you're about to share with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all, because my aim is to talk with people and talk about my ideas. I have to say they are not my ideas. This is the first thing I have to say. These are the ideas of a lot of philosophers that I studied in so many years, because I am simply a philosophy teacher, and a philosophy scholar, we can say. So I studied since so many years, 20, 30 years, political philosophy. And I had another experience. I have been a member of Amnesty International, Italian section, since so many years. And
Wow.
these two experience, my studies, my experience in Amnesty, uh, mm, they go together to make me see something about the theme we are talking about. So um, international system of protecting human rights has made a lot of steps in the last 70 years. The beginning is the Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. Okay, since that time, we saw an increasing and incredible development of acts, covenants, and so on. We now have a complete system of declarations of human rights. We have the covenant about political and civil rights, the covenant about economical, social, and cultural rights. We have the convention for women. We have the convention for children. Sorry, and so the system in that sense is complete. But another step that not so many people know, and this is strange, is that we have the judiciary power introduced in the international law, because in 1998, 60 countries signed the International Permanent Court. Okay, the the International Permanent Court was the step after Nuremberg, after Tokyo, after L'Haia, after Rwanda. So
Wow.
we have now a permanent international court. This is something very, very important, because if we see ONU like a state, Okay, let's see for a moment ONU like a UN, sorry, like a state. Okay, we have the legislative power who can be settled in the Assembly of United States. We have the executive power can be seen in the Security Council, and I have to say a lot about the not working of Security Council. Okay, let's make aside for a moment. And since 1998, we have the juridical power in the International Permanent Court. So we can say that the international system is complete according to the traditional liberal and constitutional theory. We have the three powers, separate, independent. So it's obvious that it's not the perfection. We know that it's not the perfection because we have seen war in Iraq, first one, the second one. We have seen Afghanistan. We have seen Twin Towers. We have seen terrorism. We see a lot of problems still existing, and we see about 30 wars now at the moment going in the world. So there's something in this international system which is not working. Instead that we have the three powers, we have the complete system just like a state. So I'd like to say to you what is not working and what can be work if we make the last, I think, the last step. This is my idea I want to share with you today.
Thank you, Francesco. I think it's very interesting because it's also standing to the title that we have, that is globalization of market, globalization of rights. We all faced the movement, for example, of no global when the globalization has started, and as you pointed out also in your introduction and in general on your vision, because with Francesco we had also the chance to talk about this together, like all started from the globalization of market. That, yeah, there's something that I'm asking to you. Maybe it could be something that is not bad totally, or at least it was a process, but it cannot stand alone. So something else is needed. So the globalization of rights. Yes, can you clarify that point particularly?
Yeah, I will try. Moran talked about pandemia just a few minutes ago, and you are talking about globalization in the economic sense. These are two facts, but there are other facts that need to have an international law system complete and functioning. And I answering to your question, I can explain. As you said, globalization is a process. It's not right or bad, it's a process. And we can argue just in the next 2 weeks if it's a bad process or a good process, because we have bad facts and good facts about globalization. But the problem is that in the 90s, the movements against globalization were called no global. But I also think I ever think that thought that they are to call new global, because they wanted the globalization of rights together with the globalization of markets, or of capitals and money and so on. I will try to explain better. The most important thing about globalization is that what's happening in a part of the world, let's talk about, for example, Indonesia, is something that is linked to what's happening in Italy or in the United States or in Israel. And this is, first of all, for an economic way, but from economic, we can go to the political, we can go to the human rights theme and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Every part of the world is linked. This is the principal meaning of globalization.
Mm-hmm.
The next step, if every part of the world is linked, every human rights violation in a part of the world is something interesting for other people in other parts of the world. For example,
Correct.
we together now, we are interested if Indonesian workers are paid less, dramatically less than us, or we are interested if Indonesian children are working in factories and so on. So globalization made people interested in every single fact that happens in the world, and this is a good thing according to me. Globalization has made a complete worldwide public.
Mm-hmm.
This public wants human rights and protection of human rights. So it's duty for the states, for the countries, to give this protection. And globalization showed that protection of human rights is not a fact of one country. I explain better. Italy can protect human rights for Italian citizens, and it's not so in every sense of the word. But we can assume that Italy can protect human rights for citizens of Italy, but Italy cannot protect alone human rights in other parts of the world. So only the international community can protect human rights in every part of the world. We have an international community in the sense of having a public, in the sense of having lots of people interested in what's happening in other parts of the world. But we don't have still an international community in the sense of an international global system of law functioning. These two facts are to be tied. And just like we have Italian citizens and Italian state, Italian country, we still don't have international community of citizens that are citizens of an international system of law functioning. And just let me say the last thing. This vision is not mine, obviously, but the incredible thing that this vision was of a member of the 17th century. I'm talking about Immanuel Kant. Kant explained this vision in a treatise that's called Perpetual Peace. Kant said in 1795 that if we want perpetual peace among the states, we need an international system. Kant was saying that in 1795 we need an international system, but he says that we need a democratic international system made of democratic states. My idea, or better, the idea of Kant, the idea of Kelsen and other philosophers, is that we need that all countries of the world are to be democratic, okay? And the system has to be democratic. And the system of international law actually is not a democratic one, because Security Council is the example of a non-democratic way of functioning. There are 6 members, 5 of them were the winners of the Second World War, and they are not representative of all the world, not at all. France, Great Britain, why they are nowadays a member of the Security Council of UN? It's a consequence of the Second World War, but the Second World War is 1 century ago. So we have to rethink the Security Council. as executive power, if we are thinking that it can be an executive power. We have to rethink the assembly of UN, because it doesn't work actually in a democratic way. But the fact is, someone can say this is utopic, but in a way it's utopic, because it was a vision of Kant, it was a vision of Kelsen. Kelsen write the same thing in 1934, just 1 year before the invasion of Ethiopia from by Mussolini. So in a way it is utopic, but in another way it is needed to have global protection of rights in a global system of market, as Domenico says.
Thank you, Francesco. So if you have some question, I have some, but I will give the floor to you.
No, it's okay. You can go ahead. I have a lot to say and ask, but
ask me.
Well, okay. I'm thinking of the two main things, that the ways that I look at how we can all live on Earth together, okay, harmoniously. I say unity and sustainability. And because we are all living here, it is this globalization is not for nothing. I think the metaphor of Corona is perfect. When people finally understood, oh, we breathe the same air, so we need social distancing. Oh, we are all here on one earth, okay? And we all need to understand that we are in an entire system. So we have to think whole systems thinking. And then that is something we need to either discover by ourselves or be inspired by someone else and taught or shown the way. Either way, we cannot disconnect ourselves from this. So unity is necessary. And sustainability is the ability to sustain ourselves in a way that we can all be here. So this whole discussion of human rights is actually part of all this climate change, etc., that we're talking about. It's critical, because without unity, without understanding that we should care and need to care about someone in China having corona, oh, but I'm in Italy or I'm in America, or someone in Sri Lanka having a problem, as you said, or trying to survive, and regardless of the circumstance. So all of this is relevant, and some of the work that I'm involved with, for example, that I'm a climate ambassador with the Center for United Nations Constitutional Research. Very relevant to what you're talking about. There are 2 or 3 points we really like to focus on. One is really, as you said, the United Nations, this huge achievement that we reached as humanity to even have this body at all, doesn't have real power at the moment. If we do give it some more weight behind it, then I think we'll be moving in a forward direction. And one of the things we talked about is even having an international court for the environment, and that could include human rights. And I think that's very relevant. And one last piece that's coming up for me is that amongst the work we were doing, we understood that when the charter was written for the United Nations in 1948, I think between 47 49, there was work done around it. And there is one clause that is called the San Francisco Promise. It was written in San Francisco. Do you know about it? Looks like it's familiar to you.
Yeah, it's familiar to me.
Either way, what the San Francisco Promise said is that we all agree now on this charter, and in 10 years, we open up the charter, we revisit, we look at it, we, change if we need to, we tweak it. But it's been 75, 76 years now, and we never used our little joker card. We never went back and opened the charter to update it. So there is a place there, and this I'm bringing to you and asking what your thoughts are. Can we, as even humanity, okay, global citizens, we do have the right even in writing in the charter, to say, we demand to revisit the charter and then make adjustments. And it's almost better that we didn't use it 10 years later, because 80 years later, now we are much wiser and we can really use this as a stepping stone. Like, until now, the UN was what it was, and from now, what we want it to be. Anyway, that's over to you. Just what do you think about that, or
Yeah,
what are
yeah,
your
okay.
thoughts about that?
I don't completely agree on the fact that we as a community didn't reopen the charter, because since 1948, when the declaration was written, we had some steps that can be imagined like we reopened the charter and discussed the charter. I said before, the International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights, it was in 1966. After that, the International Covenant on Social, Economic, and Cultural Rights. But then after that, we added the protocols for the climate changing. They are inefficient, okay, but they are still something to start with, okay. So I think that the problem is
100%.
not, I think my opinion is that the problem is not reopening the charter, because we have this kind of reflection year by year, or maybe 10 years by 10 years to what is the situation, what we can do, and so on. The problem, according to me, is that we don't have a coercive system to force one state to the respect of what is written in the covenants, in the charters, in the protocols, and so on. The International Permanent Court could be thought as a coercive system, but and so this is another important, a great step for humanity. But the problem is that the country has to sign this International Permanent Court. If one country doesn't sign it, the court doesn't have jurisdiction on that country. So you can imagine China and United States of America are not signing this tribunal, this International Permanent Court. So there are problems here to be solved, but as Norberto Bobbio said in a book. Norberto Bobbio was the most important Italian philosopher of human rights in the 20th century. Okay, he said in a book, and if you give me 1 minute, I can show that phrase. He said in a book that Domenico, I'm going to show on the screen. Okay, if I catch that phrase almost rapidly. Okay, he said that the problem is not if human rights exist and if they are really universal human rights. So he said the question is not if we have an international global system of law, because it is in the facts, it is in the history of the last years. The problem is how to implement this system to arrive to the complete peace, democracy, and protect of human rights in all over the world, because we have to make some other steps. And climate changing, pandemic, actually, economical crisis, the one of 2008, the one that is going nowadays, the other economical crisis due to pandemic, these are so global facts that one country can't afford it. Okay, so as you said, Moran, we have more than the past a lot of problems that clearly cannot be solved with within one state or two or three or four states. They are international problems. They are worldwide problems, and they have to be solved by the worldwide international community. This is something that is clear to every politician, every citizen of the world. And this is not a common thing. This is I want to say this is important. This is very important. Never in the world history of humanity we had this knowledge that problems are international, and the solution of problems is only in international field. Okay, so we have to strong this feeling of people that the problems can be solved in an international field. And considering that, the fact that the system of UN is not improving, is not implementing since 1946 is very, very bad. Is a delay in history that we could not accept, because it's like let me say, it's like we are going in a new environment in a desert, and we have the machine, the car of 1 century ago to go in the desert. We have to rechange our machine, our car. We need a new car to afford new problems. Okay.
Right.
The beginning is the UN, just like it is today, as you said, Moran, because it's something important that we have, but we have to make the other steps.
Right. 100%. Thank you.
If I can add something, yeah, this
Please.
topic of first of all, like something of a revision of UN system since the version of the post-war to like a more inclusive and more like current, you can say, version is very, very interesting in my opinion. And something that I appreciate also from the paper that Francesco is showing here. He shared the paper also before the Sustainable Sunday, and we had also the chance with Francesco to talk about here in Italy in another session of events that were properly addressing the topic.
Yeah, Domenico, excuse me, if while you are talking, these 3 lines, I hope that you can see these 3 lines. The future of democracy lies not only, and so on. These are from the book of Bobbio, and you can see there the same meaning of Kant, the same meaning of Kelsen. Future of democracy is in the extension of the number of democratic states, and it is a democratic universal order of democratic states tying together to afford the new problem. Excuse me if I interrupt you, but
no worries, no worries. Very pleasure. And no, the last thing that I want to say was properly on this. Also comparing with climate change agreements, and also now with the pandemic. So even more from different sides, from different like ways, topics, and so on, we are discovering that multilateralism and the global agreements are the thing that are very needed for a global governance that is democratic, that is sustainable, that is fair, and so on. So yeah, I want to stress this point also. Maybe Morani, if you want to add something, then we can also interact. We have some guests also in the room today. We can also interact with them. But the multilateralism that is the basis, for example, of the Paris Agreement, we can discover also here. That's amazing, this thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that what we said just before, it's written in the words of Bobbio. Let's see there when Bobbio says, in other words, democracy is the society of citizens and subjects become citizen when central fundamental rights are recognized. There will be stable peace only when there will be citizens not only of this or that state but of the world. Bobby
Mm.
was talking about peace because they were the 80s, and the problem you know was the nuclear bomb and so on. But if we imagine that on the world peace we tie together climate changing, sustainability, human rights, and so on, the line is always the same, the meaning is always the same, and it's something that has said from 1795 from Kant. I focus this fact because it's not a dream. It's something that some thinkers in different centuries of the human history are always thought about. And from Kant to now, what Kant imagined is was coming.
Mm-hmm.
It happens. It happened. Sorry, it's not complete, but it's happened. We can say to the people who doesn't have trust in these steps is that we made a lot of steps. We made more steps than the one that are needed. So we have to make the last 100 meters in this imagine of a sport. Okay, I don't remember the word of.
That's
But
like a run. This
run. Yes, we have to make the last 100 meters, and we are not far from that. Mostly because the problems are bigger than ever. This is not a bad thing. It's not a good thing, obviously, but the fact that the problems are bigger than ever is something that can make us do the last step. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you remember, ONU, UN
Mm-hmm.
started after Second World War.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It didn't start because some thinkers
Good would
tied
happen.
together and make a party. It
Yeah.
was an international crisis. So
yeah.
we have another international crisis, and the only good thing of international crisis is that there can be an occasion to make the last step.
Wow. I would like to just say something before we hand it over and invite our guests to participate about democracy and how we're talking about democracy being global, right? As it said in the quote, you're saying not only being a citizen of your state, but a citizen of the world. Number one. Number two, I mean, so we already have states that are not yet democratic. Then we talk about the states that are democratic, supposedly democratic, because the democratic system as it stands now is also having cracks in it. And I personally believe that, I mean, I've come up with a statement I like to think of: let's capitalize on democracy, capitalize on what we do have, because we don't yet have an alternate system to democracy. Like before democracy came to be, we didn't have democracy until we did, and then it took a long time to implement it. Now that that is the system we have, and it is better than what we had before, but it's not good enough yet. If we use it better to its potential, I believe then it will work better for our own potential. And in the meantime, at least we don't have to break down a system and have complete chaos, but we can use it to our advantage and benefit until we reach the next level and the next stage of development. Which, and this is where I just ask you your opinion, or on this train of thought: if we would use the democratic system 100% of its potential, for example, all the people who don't vote, if they did, if everybody voted, then we have a better idea of what we think collectively. And even then, sometimes we wouldn't necessarily agree on the long-term outcomes that we know that we need to think mathematically very far ahead in time about the impact of the choices we make now, whether it's the individual and or collective. And therefore, I just throw it back to you and ask if we could make it that we use the system better, number one, and number two, inspire at least those who are already, let's say, aligned or united, okay, in any constellation, okay. Would that be hopeful for us? Would we be moving in the direction that you are talking about, and kind of you're consolidating so many thought leaders and philosophies in one?
Okay.
Yeah.
The first
Thank you.
question. The first question. As you said, I completely agree with you. We don't have democracy at 100%. The first of all, democracy is participation. Excuse me if it seems
Exactly.
okay. We the part in which we don't use democracy as we can is participation. Democracy is not only voting, okay, and the fact that we have a lack of participation, according to me, is the reason we have a lack of voting in every Western state. In every Western democratic state, we have a lack of voting.
I agree.
Let's see in United States of America. Let's see in Italy. I don't know in Israel, but it seems that there are some. Okay, why? Because because we have a lack of participation. Because if we have participation, people that participate want to express his vote after participation. The difference from democracy in the 20th century is that in the 20th century, people people go to the party club in their city and talk about politics. We don't have parties now. We don't have club. We don't have party club eradicated in our towns. So we don't have the classic open spaces to participate, but we have internet. This one here is a open space of participation, open space of democracy, and fortunately, these spaces are developing year after year. So participation is going on another way, not classic way, but there's no problem in that. The problem is that we have to tie participation to listening from politicians, by politicians, okay? What we are talking here has to be listened from by politicians, and then we can vote. So this is the part that is lacking now, okay, at the moment, for the first question. The other question is, democracy is the right system. You said democracy is the right system for having more protection of human rights all over the world and so on. If I understand, this is your question in extremely synthesized words. But, well, let's see how many democratic countries are in war now. Since 1948, democratic countries are not waging wars except from United States, maybe. I don't remember wars of Italy. I don't remember wars of France, especially in the last years. According to my knowledge, but I can be wrong, I don't know, but according to my knowledge, the only two democratic countries that waged wars by their initiative, not talking about defense wars, are Israel and United States. Okay, but this is not a good thing. But we have to see the other. All the other democratic countries were not waging wars in 70 years. So I can say that democracy is really the vaccine for war or for conflicts. Okay, as I said,
Interesting.
it's not a perfect system. It will
Mm-mm.
never be. Democracy will never be a perfect system. First of all, because a perfect system that doesn't exist.
Right.
Second, because democracy is precisely the system who needs ever than ever intervention to fix something. Okay, democracy, as Popper said, is the system who always needs fixing intervention because it's not perfect. But it's better so, because if we have a perfect system, we have totalitarianism. Okay, so democracy protects peace, is the best system or the less worse system to protect human rights that we have. So according to me, it's the right line, it's the right road to implement democracy in other countries and implement democracy in the United States, United Countries organizations like Security Council. Security Council has to transform in a democratic way of proceeding, and now it's not so. We cannot accept, for example, that there are 5 countries who decide for everyone. 5 countries are permanent state right to be there in the Security Council. Okay, and why we don't have there Brazil, for example? Why we don't have India? Why we don't have South Africa? There are representative countries as the same as France or Great Britain and so on. So Security Council is the less democratic system that, and so it's urgent to reform Security Council in the UN, because as you know, it's there that that countries decide for war. For example, in the Security Council, they decided war in Iraq, they decided war in Afghanistan. So we have to implement the democratic way to discuss this subject, and we need that more countries participate to the Security Council, because it's not representative of the international situation of the world. But the way is democracy. Implement democracy in every state and in the UN. And just the last thing, maybe this is a problem because democracy is democracy is not going on either in the democratic states. We are seeing going back. For example, in Italy or in the United States with populisms, we are just experimenting the going back of democracy. For example, Trump is was a not democratic phenomena, and it is not so sure that we have won against Trump, because if we don't see Trump anymore, I don't know if we can see some Trumpist, okay, something like someone like him in the future, because the problem is not the single person, the problem is the system.
Thank you, Francesco.
Exactly.
Yes, I want to add something, but before I want to leave the floor to our guests in these Sustainable Sundays. We have a few people with us, not just we three. So I ask if they have some question. I think that okay, it's a very like wide problem, a wide topic, but I think that we can also give our vision also. So if you have some question, guys, feel free to ask. Also, if you want to, I don't know, clarify something. Yes, the here you say that it's pretty complicated. Maybe if you can like give your insight. No worries about the complexity. Really, we are here to talk together and to understand better together. So maybe the here, if you want to spend few words.
Wait, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, it's delaying to unmute myself. Yeah, I think that this is my new topics, and you know about human rights. I don't know before about that, and I just know that in in Indonesia is it is my country about human
Okay.
rights. I think that
I
it's
made only an example, okay? Only an example. Was the first country I remembered about.
okay. So yeah, I think that it's inequality between the human rights in a I mean, right now is the government um, remove the mm, coal in toxic materials into untoxic materials.
Mm.
So I live at the um, before I study in my university. I live on the coal mining, and it's really impact affected our environment, affected our life. So air is polluted, and our catchment area is polluted too. So right now the government remove the toxic materials into toxic untoxicate materials. And yeah, it I think that it is just for economic growth, but we don't care about the we don't care about our environment. So I just what happened in my decisions making right now. So just I just want to about that we about that I know about the human rights in my country. So I think that's all.
Thank you, Doir. Yes, if you want to add something, Francesco, just make a
I didn't catch the last, the very effective question made by Dwyer.
yeah.
Did you catch that? Can you
Yes,
repeat?
yes. He was like saying about the situation of Indonesia, and
Okay,
he say that
it was clear to me.
yeah, the economic growth was like the main point of the decision making.
Yes,
So the decision were taken for the economic growth, but for example, taking care of the environment that affect. He explained that affected, for example, some areas with
yes,
toxic
yes.
some
I
and so,
understood
and
that.
so yeah. And yeah, he was considering that, and tell me if I'm wrong, Udo here, this is like a lack of consideration also of human rights. And I want also to add one point
Okay.
that
Oh, okay.
actually with the declaration of climate justice and so on, also the rights of have a safe environment is coming to be human rights.
Yeah, right of a safe environment is one of the fourth or five generational rights in the political philosophy of modern history, because human rights are scheduled in five generation, first generation, second generation, and so on. The right of a safe environment is one of the fourth or five generations. So is a right completely achieved in a theoretical way. Okay, The problem is, as Doir said, that is that this right is not protected in some parts of the world, and I can say it's not protected in every part of the world, because we have environmental problems everywhere. These kind of rights, as I said before, are not rights that can be solved from Indonesian politicians. Specific case Doir says is one of that, because it's evident that Indonesian politics has to remove toxic materials from his areas. Okay, but generally speaking, the problem, for example, of toxic materials cannot be solved only in one country, because if my country removes toxic materials from Italy, but moves them to Indonesia, the problem goes to Indonesia. So we need, it's evident, we need the
global governance.
global governance of these kind of problems. And as toxic materials, we can say about nuclear radiations, or nuclear
Waste.
right, sorry, I didn't have the word. Nuclear waste. We cannot simply remove from one part of a country and take them to another part of the country, or take them to another country. There's no solution on this way. So using the Doiric example, I can say that climate problems are the best example of the needing of global governance of human rights, and it's urgent. And I think that even politicians now understand that. Maybe they are not going to make the right decision, but they understand that this is a problem of international governance. So I think that the last step is on this problem is quite near to be not solved, but afforded. Okay, I don't know the solution, but the fact that countries are seeing one another to solve the climate problems is on the way. It has to be on the way.
Step in the right direction.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It has to be. It's necessary. What Kant thought as an utopia is now a necessity.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's already optimistic, just to end a conversation like this. And because as you speak of the nuclear waste, I'm very aware. I don't know how many people are aware. I don't think the world is aware enough of the crisis we have in the Marshall Islands, that America actually put radioactive nuclear waste onto the islands there, into an area that from some of the testing, there was a big hole in the earth, and they thought it's okay to pour it in there. And now, because of global warming, the ice, the glaciers are melting, the ice is melting, the seas are rising, and the water is going into where they put it. And when it fills up, it's going to go back into the ocean, and that's going to affect the entire planet. And that's only one example of nuclear waste, and it's not being discussed. So just the idea that you're saying, and I think we can all see, even the last 6 months, let alone year, especially since COP25, I believe, and even with America kind of pulling itself out of the Paris Agreement, created enough attention for the world to actually pay more attention to this. And now they've come back, so more people are aware of what is the Paris Agreement to even begin with, let alone getting there. And so I'm very relieved to hear that you're saying from this perspective that even the idea that climate change has become a little bit more mainstream, that it's not just a select few people who are interested in it. It's actually really growing quite exponentially, I dare say, I think, before our eyes as we speak. And hopefully that in itself, metaphorically, will be the reflection we needed as a human society, as one species, that will be like clear enough in front of our faces that we can maybe get to the point where we do ground this universal body, this global governance system that will take us to the next level. And I think also, just last thing, you mentioned it, utopian or not utopian. I think what you said earlier about there is no such thing as perfect. So hopefully we will always have something to work on. We will always have something to improve on. We'll always have something to become better on. The biggest step we have yet to make as a species is to recognize that we are one. And it's not a cliche. It's a scientific fact.
Yeah. I can make an example of what you said just 1 minute before. When International Permanent Court started, it was 1998. Only 60 countries were ready to sign the International Court. Someone in that period, some human rights activists, was saying that if only 60 countries were to sign that court, it's better not to sign. It's better not to start. Some human activists said that. Okay, well, since 1998, from now, they are not only 60. They improve, they implement. Okay, I don't know how many are now, but I know that are not 60. So this is the perfect example of what you are saying, that we cannot focus on the perfect and definitive solution, because if we focus to the perfect solution, we never go to that solution, because we have to make step by step. It's obvious. So I think that every international covenant, every international protocol, every meeting of countries talking about problems, it's better than nothing. Even if the solution that they decide are not sufficient. Okay, for example, Kyoto Protocol probably was not the best one that can be decided in that period, but it's better than nothing. And step by step, the other fact is that global knowledge about problems is improving, and this is the one important thing that we don't have to forget. I think in the human history we never had so big global knowledge of the problems. Let's see here. I'm from Italy, Domenico from Italy. You are in Israel, and Toir in Indonesia. If we have to, if we were 1 century ago, we never imagined a thing like that. We never imagined a thing like that. Even 50 years ago.
Right.
Not only for a technological lack, but even for the vision itself. Okay.
Conceptually.
And it is now. Okay, we are only 4 or 5 or 6, I don't know. But how many sustainable Sundays are going on? And how many different ideas like that are going on in the world? So global knowledge of the problem is increasing. Global problems are increasing. Okay. The last step is that global governance increase, and it is happening. It's far from perfect. It's maybe too slow, okay, but it is happening. Since 1948, it is happening year by year. We have only to go on this path. But this doesn't mean that we don't have to It doesn't mean that we have only to be we only have to wait. Okay, if I say it is happening, if I say it is a necessity, maybe people can think, okay, let's sit and wait when this will happen. No, we have to go on these ideas, on these talkings, and because the process is still too low, and we have to accelerate it. We have to accelerate it because climate doesn't doesn't wait. Climate changing doesn't wait. Nuclear waste don't wait. So we have to accelerate this process. And what is the lacking part? Our parties, our political parties. I will vote for one party. You will vote for another party. I don't know. Our political parties have in their programs this idea of global governance of the problems, because we as electors, we have to ask that our politicians make these problems in their agenda. We have to ask it, and this is the part that is lacking, according to me. I don't know any political party in Europe that has in this program to accelerate the process of international governance, and so we have to make this last step. Not only talking one another, but talking with the politicians. I don't know how, but in another talking, and Moran can remember that I said that the the NGO, can talk and have to talk with the political parties to make their agenda, to make their political program. So it's another step to be making.
Thank you, Francesco, and also you relieve me by the fact that sometimes also the Paris Agreement was judged not too much, imperfect, and so on, but thankfully that it is. So yeah, thank you very much for also your insight. Yes, we are going to close, Moran. I don't know if there is one very, very last question, the one that you cannot miss. Even though, well, yeah, go ahead.
If we can answer it really quickly, first of all, Francesco, I would say collective intelligence is what we have going on here. Collective intelligence is what is growing exponentially. And I do think that Corona pushed it, because we were disconnected, and this was the only way for us to connect. And it's just organically happening, like spontaneous combustion happens, and it's exactly a reflection of nature. So for very quick, for the viewers who are watching, who are listening to this, if there's one thing that everyone could do that would propel us forward in the right direction and help accelerate what we're talking about, in your opinion, what would that be? And taking into consideration that our goal is to get a critical mass to do this. What would that be, if there were, for anyone who's watching this?
A word that we used before: participate.
Great.
But not only here. We are participating here, okay? We are talking here, and it's a good thing. But as I said before, we need to do another thing that maybe someone of us doesn't think so good. Talk with the politicians, participate on his political party. I don't know how, going on the club and of that political party, and say, you have to listen to me. You have to listen to me and to the other people that are talking with me. Participate, not only just like critical mass, as you said, okay, but participating even in politics. because world doesn't change for itself. World changes with political acts, and we have to improve the political knowledge of the global governance. I'm not saying that you or me or Domenico or Doir have to be in the political career, okay? But I'm not saying that this is good, this is bad, okay? I had one of my students listened to me 2 years before. After that, he wrote to me 6 months after, and he said, I listened to you and I choose to go in a specific political party. I don't say sorry, I don't say what party because it's not important. He goes there, goes there, and from there, he made a career, okay? And so it's a good thing if his ideas are the strong ideas that we need. I'm saying that participate is also participating to politics. Something that is not quite good nowadays. It's not seen as good, but it never as bad. Okay, politicians are bad now because we leave politics only to bad people. Okay, this is my opinion. In one word, participate, not only voting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francesco.
Thank you, Francesco. Thank you, Dohir, for being here. Everyone who's come in between and who's watching from wherever in the world you are. And I love that. It's participate and be active in any way and every way that we can. Eventually, I think system change from top down, bottom up, and actually using that system that we have. You know, it's like saying, I need salt, I have salt, but I don't use it. We have to use it. So I really, really want to thank you. I feel like we can go on for 6 more hours easily, and I would love to. I would like to. And we'd love to have you back again. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Domenico, for also organizing this. It's a really huge honor to have you here, Francesco. And I just wish for us to keep moving forward, to keep doing what we're doing, to spread this information as far and wide as we can. Anyone who's watching, please share, like, and comment, invite your friends, and comment below so we can know what you're thinking and feeling, and any questions that you have. We're here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And subscribe our YouTube channels where we are putting the Sustainable Sundays. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Doyer. Bye, Moran. Thank you very much for your words, Moran.
Thank you. Thank you so much.